Thank you for your time. And we are here to talk about the St. George's 2025 stewardship campaign, Just Imagine. And the reason why in the world am I talking to you, my rector buddy at St. Mark's Episcopal Church down the road? I'll tell you why. It is because St. George's Church is trying to borrow or maybe imitate some of the wisdom and or ideas from St. Mark's Episcopal Church. And I've kind of become convinced that there are two areas of ministry that have led to some good fruit, some good experiences, some good health at St. Mark's that would be a real blessing at St. George's. Partly because I think there's a lot that the two parishes have in common. I think that there's a lot that you and I have in common.
Mm.
And these two pieces are children's ministry and music ministry.
Mm.
I wanted to just pick your brain a little bit about these two areas of ministry. And I thought we could start first with children's ministry. Could you paint a picture for us, for me, of the community of little bitty kids, young families, young parents at St. Mark's when you first arrived 6 years ago?
There weren't many. There were a few. In the pews when I got here, let's think. I can remember three families that were here that had young kids. Two of those three had very recently been recruited to join the parish from the preschool. We have a preschool here at St. Mark's, just like you do at St. George's. Our interim rector, who was here for about a year before I started, saw the preschool as a huge strategic uh, partner for mission and ministry, and so made a huge point to kind of be in the parking lot all the time and get to know the families. And because of him, we had more than nothing.
Right.
Uh, we had a few families, but yeah, that's what we had to start with. Just a few families. Yeah.
And would you say that the children and parents, as few as there may have been, were engaged, growing, building relationships, and engaging in ministry?
One of the things that St. Mark said about itself in their kind of survey work that they had done to establish their parish profile before they hired me was that they did not see themselves as a parish that had a great deal of spiritual maturity or depth. Um, and so I was told as the new rector that part of my job was to recruit young families to come to St. Mark's. And they were looking around and seeing a lot of people that weren't going to be here in 25 years. And they were like, well, if we don't do anything about this, we're not going to be here. And so, credit to them. They put that in their parish profile and they went out and hired a young rector. I mean, uh, and so they told me that I had to do that. And so to me, it was obvious that that's what we needed to do,
Right.
not just for the kind of math reasons. We were looking around and seeing who wasn't here, and it was obvious that we didn't have many young kids. But to me, Jesus is also very clear about, part of what it means to follow Jesus is that we are called to be in relationship with the least of these, to be in relationship with those on the margins. And you know, I looked around and I was asking myself, well, who are the people that are on the margins of this community? Who are the people who are the least of these in this context? And I was kind of like, actually, the most immediately proximate least of these we have are children. Like they are literally people that are not given a voice in this context. And so it is our responsibility to be in relationship with them as a consequence of us following Jesus. And then I looked and I said, look, we have a preschool right here on the property. Did you guys know that? Let's go. So I made
Uh,
it a huge priority to be in the school as much as possible, just like the interim rector had done.
talk to me about staffing, personnel. What role did that play in all of this?
Yeah, a huge role. Um, yeah, the other way to tell the whole story is that I hired this person named Casey Bushman, and he's incredible, and he made it all happen. But I think that how that lands on a parish is you have to be willing to pay for stuff that you don't, that's not there yet, you know.
Wait, it's not a chicken and egg thing?
No, it's not. You have to pay for the stuff. You have to pay for the seeds before they bear fruit.
So I came to St. Mark's in the fall of 2019 as the director of Christian formation, which had historically meant mostly children's ministry stuff, but in my case was going to mean children and youth ministries. So everything birth to high school graduation. Um, and really what I was tasked with doing is just growing programs that would serve families along that, age spectrum, help kids develop in the faith and get plugged into the church, and really just build on what Zach was already doing at St. Mark's. So fall of 2019, started making plans and trying to dream about what a new renewed kind of youth ministry vision would look like, how to bring in children and families, and then of course just a few months later all of those plans were just dashed and everything's turned upside down. We can get into that a little bit more. And so during COVID, Zach decided to kind of experiment a little bit with our early worship service, our 9 o'clock service, and we created something out of that called Picnic Church, basically the picnic Eucharist on the front lawn, a kind of an abbreviated kind of liturgy, um, a a casual kind of atmosphere, a welcoming atmosphere for families and kids, a children's sermon, some special activities devoted to kids. And so once we opened up that space, that's when we really started seeing families notice us and
Right.
get more involved, and saw a lot of growth in that area of the church during those years where for a lot of churches they were seeing participation amongst that group decline sharply. So
Yeah. Do you think that Zach could have pulled off that work without you? And do you think that you could have pulled off that work without Zach?
yeah, I remember vividly just walking around with Zach on the front lawn when we were kind of dreaming this up, and looking at the space and kind of walking through how we could arrange things and what the liturgy might look like, how we could build in some more movement and interaction to kind of to get kids to be a little more engaged. So it was a collaborative kind of brainstorming kind of process between us early on. And
I think that word collaboration is huge. Like,
oh, totally.
no one person can do these things. And when two gifted leaders are in the mix, they feed off of each other and magic happens.
Totally. Yeah.
And it was a big conversation and a big debate for us when the COVID stuff kind of subsided and we were like, okay, are we for real about this? Are we going to do this thing inside? Or are we going to go back to what we were doing before?
If you were to paint a picture in year 6, what would that picture look like?
It looks a lot different than it did 6 years ago. We have a ton of families with young kids. Every Sunday we have 3 services, and we have a 9 o'clock service that really is down to a kind of DNA level designed for families with young children to participate. And on an average Sunday, we have probably about 30 kids that come up for the children's sermon at that service. And, that's a population, at least here, that most of those families don't come to church every single Sunday. A lot of them are more like once or twice a month kind of families. It just is more of an adjustment than some people are ready for. And I remember there were a couple moments where during the announcements or something, when there's a moment when you realize everybody is looking to see which team the rector is going to choose, there's a kid being too loud in the back.
Right.
And those few moments to have said directly to those parents, your presence is a gift here, and that applies to your children as well. And I'm so glad you're here today.
That's
And
actually one of the things about St. George's that makes me super happy is the people here are so radically open.
yeah,
I don't anticipate that being an issue here.
praise God.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I
great.
could be wrong, but I really don't think so.
St. George's Church loves kids. And I can say, having 2 little ones, I've never gotten any looks in church when there's running across the front or whatever happens. Everyone always smiles and laughs or mouths to me, "That's awesome." So it's such a welcoming space for children. Big feelings, all of it. And that means a lot to families.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Let me say one thing directly to your listeners.
Thank you.
The greatest gift you can give your new rector is money that he can play with.
Amen.
But I mean that in a serious and deep way. I mean that, St. George's is in a very critical moment in its life. They've recruited and hired an incredible and talented young rector who is, every day trying to pursue, God's call and what that has to do in the lives of the people of St. George's. And stewardship is just code for how fast are we going to let this priest run? How much are we going to equip him with the resources through which he can love and serve you? That's his job. And so be brave and be sacrificial, and it will be returned to you tenfold.